Hi, my name's Mike Dean. The business name is The Painting Team. We've been painting for 25 years, I suppose.
Mike, what does a person need to try a DIY paint job?
Okay, if you're going to do some painting, if you're not going to get the painters in, but you're going to do it yourself, you still need the gear that the painter's going to use. So obviously, you're going to need a sleeve and a cage. Now, cages, you can buy real cheap and nasty ones, but if they aren't firm, it's got to have some strength in it, because you're going to be leaning that against the wall. If you've got a shorter one and it's a cheap and flimsy one, you're not going to get a real good job. So you also want a, depending on the kind of surface you're doing, a different length. Now, bit off with a woolen, lamb's wool sleeve. Don't get a synthetic. Don't buy a synthetic because it takes forever to clean. Lamb's wool will give you a better job and easier and quicker. And obviously you need a screw end on it for putting in your extension handle. You may think, well, I'm only doing a couple of rooms, I don't need, but 3 years from now you're going to do another room, and 5 years later you have to do more. So it's worth the investment of an extension handle, which of course will take you to different lengths. What you need, that the screws in the end, and that's what the professionals use. You'll get a better job. In terms of trays, you can buy, you've probably seen painters with those big metal trays, and we use those as well. But these things are quite okay. They're not overly expensive. They hold a fair bit of paint. But once again, don't get anything cheap and nasty. You want something solid that holds a fair amount of paint. And away you go. Drop sheets. Well, once again, drop sheets are going to cost money, but they save you a lot of time and effort. The plastic sheets are good for over the dining room table. You've got to load it up with stuff. Put a clear plastic sheet is better than a cloth sheet, because you can see that it's fragile stuff. It lets you know to be careful. It's also good, perhaps if you're protecting wallpaper, you don't want to get any splashes on that. But for a floor covering, they're useless. You're going to slip on it, you're going to put a hole in it, and when you get paint on it, it doesn't soak in, and you're going to travel it into the next room. So you need to use a cloth sheet. Now, these cloth sheets come in different sizes. Get yourself the big ones, get the 12 by 12s, don't get a 9 by 12, but 12 by 12 is a better size. And a word of warning, don't open it right out. Make sure you keep it a double thickness of fabric. If you have a single thickness of fabric, you'll be okay up to a point, but if you get a splosh of paint there, which you're going to, and then you step on it, it will go through the sheet into the carpet every time with coconut. But if you have a double thickness, that won't happen. So you can go single thickness on a kitchen floor, tile floor if you want to, but normally double thickness. What else do I talk about? Sandpaper. Sandpaper comes in different grades. You're normally going to use a 180, a 120, or an 80 grade. That's the normal things. You might use a 60. That just refers to the number of grit particles per square something. So the higher the number, the finer the grade. 180, you heard Chris talking before about, you use that between coats when you're sanding your undercoat and stuff like that, but generally you use 120 or 80 depending. And a little tip, you don't have to buy a great roll like this, but once again it's cheaper than the roll. Stays in the garage, stay there for 5 years, you've always got it on hand. A roll like that's going to cost you $45, $50, whereas if you buy it by the metre, you're going to spend a lot of money. So when you get your sandpaper, pull it out of the middle, fold it once, fold it twice, break the back, put a crimp in it, tear it. That is the perfect size for sanding with. Sand, and you've got that extra fold in there to bring on the outside when you've worn out. If you do 4 folds, it's a bit too bulky. If you do only 2 folds like that, it moves all over the place and doesn't hold its shape. Funny little thing, but you just get that 3-fold, you get a nice hold. You'll feel like a professional. Brushes. Everybody's got a viewpoint about brushes, but basically you want a brush that's going to do the job. It's not so much the size of the brush that's important, but the tip on the brush. This one's done a few miles, done a lot of miles, but it's still right to the end will hold its shape. That's a thinner style, which I tend to use for enamelling, for your oil-based things, but you can get a fatter one for your acrylics. When a brush starts looking like that, you haven't got much of a point. Mind you, this one isn't too bad. It's not as bad as it looks because it will flatten down with the paint in it. That's not used for windows or for gloss work. That used for obviously for your walls and ceilings. One tip: keep your oil-based brushes and your water-based brushes separate. Oil-based ones you only use for oil-based paint, water-based only for water-based. We use a colour coding, red handle, means oil-based. That way you don't get them mixed up. If you've used a brush for water-based paint and then you decide you're going to use oil-based paint with it, it doesn't matter how well you've cleaned this out. When you start putting oil-based paint into it, the solvents in the paint slowly but surely will start to soften up that residue acrylic that's inside. So you find for half an hour, and all of a sudden you start getting these bits coming out of the paint. It's the solvent that is breaking up the acrylic and taking it out. So you keep your oil-based brushes separate from your water-based brushes. Same with your pots that you put your paint into. Keep some for oil, some for water. You'll end up with a beautiful job every time. For all sorts of reasons, which thousands of them, you'll find them out. One good tip: call me if you need any advice over the phone. Probably the best way to do it.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, tools. Yeah, okay. Best demonstrated, which we can't demonstrate here, there's nothing to do. These things are great. They're called limbides. I call them a raking tool. The limbide is a particular brand. It's got a really tough tungsten carbide head on it, and they're great for, use them all the time for knocking lumpy bits off things, or for when you're using your 2-pack filler for cleaning your tools. But these, once you started using these, you will never be without one. And you just get your conventional scraper, of course, for things. Best if I showed at the time. But
another job.
Yeah, and of course you'll always need a knife just for cutting the head off your tube of gaps. A can opener. Simplest thing. Don't use a screwdriver to open up a can of paint, because I don't know what it is about these things. Some engineer worked out the right way to get just that little shape, and that opens the can of paint. You don't open it like that, you just twist around, and that opens again.
Where can people contact you, Mike?
Oh, right. If you want some help, you've seen a bit of this footage, you want to know a bit of advice, do not be afraid to just call me. I'll help out over the phone if I can. I'm too happy to come out and have a look. Obviously, if you need a quote, I'm happy to do that too, but a little bit of advice along the way is fine. The number is 0418 76 33 26.